In this video, we will be learning how the custom Justice Service Cloud trial CSAT solution works and walking through how to set it up. Before we get started, be sure to check out the CSAT Enablement Guide PDF on the Desk.com Support Center. You can download it from the Support Center article for a written walkthrough on how to enable this CSAT solution. So let's get started by seeing how the custom CSAT solution works in Service Cloud. Here I have a Justice Service Cloud trial org where I've already enabled the solution. The trial org comes pre-installed with all of the components that you need. So let's say that in this scenario, I'm ready to resolve a case and request feedback from my customer. I'm going to click into a case to open it, and I'm going to click into the email action in the feed to send an email to my customer. So at this point, I need to apply the email template that contains the CSAT feedback request so that my customer will see that feedback request when they receive the email. I'm going to click down into the Insert, Create, or Update template, and I'm going to insert a template. The CSAT template is a classic email template, so I'm going to select Classic Email Templates, and I'm going to select the CSAT template to apply to my email. So at this point, now the agent has the time to modify their email so that their customer sees exactly what they want them to see. And when the agent's ready, they can go ahead and fire it off. So now that I've sent my email to my customer, I can go ahead and set the status to closed. So on the customer end, they will be receiving an email and it'll look like this. And it'll be asking them for their feedback. When the customer sees the email, they'll see the feedback request and they have the option to select a rating. Once they select a rating, they'll click on it and that'll take them to a separate Visualforce page where they can submit their rating. So keep in mind that at this point, the customer has not submitted their feedback yet. They still need to fill out the rating and they still need to click Submit Your Rating. This additional text area is optional. So once they've submitted their rating, they will be taken to a second Visualforce page that shows them a thank you message and lets them know that their feedback has been submitted. So now if I go back into my trial and I look at that same case, if I were to refresh my tab, I should see that the feedback has come in from the customer. So agent feedback and the feedback comments. Now let's look at how to enable CSAT. So I'm going to hop over to a separate trial org where I haven't enabled CSAT yet. The first thing that we want to do is upload our company logo. This step is optional. You don't need to have a logo on your page. But if you don't want to have a logo, you still will need to go through the step of removing the default logo from the page. So the page will come with a default Salesforce logo, and you will probably want to remove that. So here I am in a trial, and to get to setup, I'm going to click that gear icon, and I'm going to go ahead and navigate to my normal setup. To upload a company logo, I need to go to Static Resources. So in my quick find bar, I'm going to click Static Resources. And I'm just going to go and upload a new logo. So let's click New. Let's name it something simple like Company Logo. I'm going to choose the file that I want, and I have it ready here. And I'm going to make the cache control public. Once you click Save, that should be it. The next thing I need to do is add that logo to the Visualforce pages where that logo will be displayed. So I'm going to remember that I named my logo Company Logo within Static Resources. Okay, into the quick find bar, I'm going to navigate over to Visualforce pages. The two pages that I want to be modifying are called CSAT and CSAT Thank You. So let's first start with CSAT. CSAT is a page where the customer rates the agent. So let's click Edit so that we can modify this Visualforce page. And to find the area that the logo lives, I'm just going to do a simple search to look for logo. So I just did a Control F or a Command F to look for search. And I'm going to find the area where the logo is hosted. Okay. Here, I want to remove this whole endpoint. I just want this code to point directly to that static resource that I had. So I'm going to leave the resource part and I'm just going to type in company logo, exactly what I titled it. Okay, that looks good. So I'm going to go ahead, scroll back to the top, click Save. And then I'm going to go into my second CSAT page, the CSAT Thank You page, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. So from here, I'm just going to click directly into Edit. Again, I'm going to search for logo. There it is. And again, I'm going to remove that endpoint because I don't need it. I just want this code to point directly to that static resource that I uploaded. That should be it. Looks good. So let's click Save. Now we're ready to create the site that will host these Visualforce pages. So let's go over to Sites. Type in Sites in your quick find. Click into your sites. And if you have not created a domain for your Salesforce org sites, you will need to do so. The domain for your site will need to be something that's never been used before by any other Salesforce org. So here, I'm just going to keep it simple and use the exact same domain that I have for my Salesforce org. You'll want to check the availability of those domains. So it looks like my domain is available. Click Yes to accepting the terms and register your Salesforce site domain. Okay, once you've created your Salesforce.com domain, you're ready to create sites within that domain. So now we're going to create a site that'll be just for your feedback page. So go ahead and click New. We want to create a new site within our domain. And sometimes it might take a little while because Salesforce has just created this new domain. So it'll just take a few seconds to load. Okay, there we go. We want to use a guest user license. Click Continue. And for my site label, I'm just going to keep it simple and I'm going to call it Feedback. Site contact, you can leave that the way it is by default. Active site homepage, this can be something simple. This is going to be the page that people will see if they somehow stumble upon your site without being directed to the page that you direct them to. So for active site page, I'm just going to use unauthorized because I don't want my customers to see anything when they get to my site unless I'm directing them to the CSAT page. So let's use the unauthorized page. And everything else can be left as default. Let's go ahead and click Save. So now I have a site within my Salesforce org. The only thing we really need to do here is add those Visualforce pages that we just modified. So let's scroll down to our Site Visualforce page section. Let's click Edit. And let's add the CSAT page and the CSAT Thank You page. Now I'm going to click Save. And voila, that should be it. The last thing I really want to make sure I do is click Activate. So we want to make sure that we activate our site. Now that my site is ready to go, I'm going to go and modify the email template so that the email template sends my customers to this site. So before moving to the email template, I'm going to go back to the first sites page, and I'm going to copy the site URL that was created. So I'm just copying the domain for the site that I created. Okay, so I'm going to do a copy. And now that I have that copied, I'm ready to modify my email template. So back into our quick navigation bar, let's type in email templates, and let's find that CSAT template. Click into the CSAT template. Here we get a little preview of what it looks like, and we're just going to edit the HTML version. So within this HTML template, there are 4 places that we need to replace with the domain that we just created. Those 4 spots correspond with each of the smiley faces. So I'm going to scroll down until I see the right place, and you'll kind of see the sections forming at some point. I'd say like about halfway through. And you'll see it says span class, customer feedback rating, and then you'll see a link reference that has a little placeholder called your site. You just want to replace the beginning of the URL. You don't want to delete the rest of the URL. There's this entire endpoint here that contains variables that will point your customers to the correct CSAT page. You don't want to remove any of that. So let's just delete the yoursite.force.com section. And let's paste in the domain that we just copied. Okay, and I need to do that 3 more times. So just scroll down a little bit and do the exact same thing 3 more times. All right, that's looking good. Do a really quick double check and make sure that all the URLs and all the slashes are in their right place. Okay, it's looking good. When you're ready, go ahead and click Save. So now we've got the email template, the site, and all the Visualforce pages set up. The last piece of the puzzle is making sure that the custom fields are going to appear in the places that your agents will want to see them in your console. So by default, we have the custom fields, and let me just open up a case so you can see. We have the custom fields on the left-hand side component of your console. We have one called Agent Feedback, and we have one called Feedback Comments. Your trial will not include these fields anywhere else, but if you do want to see more information, let's say you want to see those fields in your case details, you can add that in. So let's go ahead and see what that looks like. I'm going to go back over to my setup. And now, in order to access the case custom fields that I want to modify, I'm going to toggle over to my object manager. I'm going to look for the case object. And I'm going to click into Fields and Relationships. Within Fields and Relationships, I'm just going to use the quick find and do a simple search for any fields that contain the word feedback. If you search for the word feedback, you should get all, I believe, 6 of the fields that contain feedback. So let me just give you a walkthrough of what each of these fields mean. We're really just looking at the first 4 fields. So the agent feedback score, that's the score of score 1 through 4 that your customer is submitting to us. So that's the, happy face, frowny face, neutral face. That's the 1, 2, 3, 4. Feedback comments is the text area that your customer is submitting. So if they have additional things to say. Feedback for agent, that is a text field that shows you which agent is getting rated. So it'll show you whether it was Johnny or Bob that was getting the rating. And finally, we have a formula field at the top called agent feedback. This formula field will actually display the appropriate smiley face based on the numbers 1 through 4 of the feedback score that the agent received. So if we click into that agent feedback formula field, we can see that this field is actually looking at the agent feedback score pick list 1 through 4, and it's assigning a smiley face image based on the number. And also note that these smiley faces are also hosted in our static resources. So if you decide that you'd like to replace the smiley faces, you can simply do so by going to static resources and looking for the CSAT static resource. Okay, so let's say I want to add more of these fields to my case details. Let's say that I want my CSAT fields to be a section within the page layout, maybe underneath the description. I'm going to go back into my setup, and I'm already in my object manager. I'm already looking at the case object, so I'm just going to go into my case page layouts, and I'm going to modify the case layout. So within the case layout, I wanted to add a CSAT section under the description. So let's add a new section. Oops. There we go. Let's call it CSAT. And then for my fields, I want to make sure I'm adding the right fields. So I want to say, let's see who was receiving the feedback. So I want to know which agent was receiving the feedback. I want to see what the feedback score was. So that should be the agent feedback field. And then I want the feedback comments. So let's drag that in as well. Let's rearrange things a little bit. Okay, so that's looking good. I'm going to go ahead and save. My changes should be saved to the page layout now. So now I'm ready to test. Let's go back in and let's create a new case. Or actually, let's just submit a CSAT request for this existing case. So let me give this a quick refresh, just to make sure everything is refreshed and ready to go. Let's just do a hard refresh there. And in my feed, I'm ready to send an email to my customer requesting feedback. So now my CSAT template is in my recently used templates. I can simply click the CSAT template. I'm going to go ahead and click send. Let's just say that I also want to set that case to resolved or closed. Okay. Now I can see that the email has come in. Hi, Sally, what do you think? Sally's going to click in. She's going to be taken to that new site that you created, right? She'll see that visual force page that you added. I'm going to do a quick refresh. There we go. She'll see all those icons there. And when she clicks her submit, she'll see that thank you page. So now when I go back into the case as an agent, and I need to refresh my tab, I should see that Sally's feedback came in, her feedback comments were added, And if I move into the case details page, I should see my new CSAT section filled out with all of Sally's comments. And it'll also tell me that the feedback was for the specific agent that sent the email template.